The grand ballroom sparkled with chandeliers, laughter, and music. Couples swirled across the polished floor, their joy spilling over like champagne from crystal glasses. But in the far corner, at a small round table, a woman sat utterly still. Her name was Isabella Hart, 36 years old, a self-made CEO of one of the country's fastest-growing tech firms. Her dress shimmered silver under the golden lights, her long dark hair draped elegantly across her shoulders. She had wealth, power, and respect, the kind of success most people only dreamed of. And yet, at this wedding, she felt invisible. Her wheelchair sat like an iron boundary between her and the world. Every glance she caught seemed to last a second too long, not cruel, not mocking, but pitying. She hated pity more than anything. Isabella had learned to hold her chin high in boardrooms, to silence doubt with intelligence sharper than any blade. But here, surrounded by dancing couples, laughter, and romance, her armor cracked. She felt like the broken one, sitting in the shadows, destined to always watch joy from afar. She sipped her champagne, forcing a smile as the bride and groom shared their first dance. That was when a small voice cut through the music. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" Isabella turned, and her guarded heart skipped a beat. Standing there was a man, tall, broad-shouldered, with a gentle smile that seemed to melt the noise of the ballroom. He wasn't in a tux like most of the men but wore a neatly pressed navy suit, simple yet dignified. His sandy brown hair curled slightly at the edges, and his hazel eyes held warmth, not pity. And clinging shyly to his hand was a little girl, no older than 7, wearing a flower crown slightly too big for her head. She looked up at Isabella with wide, curious eyes. "Hi," Isabella managed, trying to keep her voice steady. "No, it's not taken." The man pulled out the chair opposite her, helping his daughter climb up before sitting down himself. He offered his hand across the table. "I'm John Storm," he said. "And this is my daughter, Alice." "Hi," Alice chirped. "You look like a princess." For the first time that night, Isabella's laugh came naturally. "Thank you, sweetheart. You look beautiful too." John's eyes softened as he watched them. "We don't know many people here," he admitted. "And I noticed you were sitting alone. Thought maybe we could fix that." Isabella's heart clenched at the simplicity of his words. He hadn't approached her with pity. He hadn't seen her wheelchair as a boundary. He had simply seen a woman sitting alone. And that was how it began. As the night went on, John and Alice stayed by her side. They laughed over the terrible choice of songs, joked about the over-the-top decorations, and Alice insisted Isabella try the strawberry cake, feeding her a piece herself, giggling when the frosting smeared. Isabella felt something she hadn't in years, belonging. But old scars ran deep. When John finally asked, "Would you, maybe like to dance?" Isabella froze. Her throat tightened. "I can't," she whispered. John didn't flinch. He leaned closer, his voice low but firm. "Then we don't have to dance. We can just move to the edge of the floor and watch together. Or sit right here. But I'd like you to be my date tonight, if you'll let me." Her eyes widened. No man had ever asked her that. Not since the accident that left her paralyzed 5 years ago. Her instinct was to push him away, to protect herself from the inevitable disappointment. People were kind until reality sank in. Then they walked away. But John's gaze held steady, not demanding, just waiting. Slowly, Isabella nodded. "Okay." And when Alice clapped and squealed, "Yay! Daddy has a date." Isabella couldn't help but laugh again, even as tears threatened her eyes. After the wedding, John and Isabella stayed in touch. Coffee turned into dinner, dinners turned into long walks. Well, John walked, Isabella wheeled beside him, and Alice always skipped ahead like sunshine in motion. But Isabella struggled. Every time John leaned closer, every time Alice wrapped her little arms around her, Isabella's heart screamed for more and her mind screamed to stop. "Don't trust it. Don't fall. He'll leave like the others." One night, after a beautiful dinner, John drove her home. He walked her to the door, his hand lingering near hers. "Isabella," he said softly, "I like you. A lot. And Alice, she adores you. But I need to know if you're letting me in or if you're just waiting for me to give up." The words cut deep because they were true. Isabella's walls had always protected her, but now, they were hurting her more than saving her. "I don't want to be someone's charity project," she whispered, her voice breaking. John's jaw tightened, but his voice was calm. "You're not. You're the most incredible woman I've ever met. But if you keep pushing me away, you'll never believe that." And he walked away that night, leaving Isabella trembling on her doorstep, torn between fear and longing. Days turned into weeks. Isabella threw herself into work, determined to bury the ache. She was a CEO, after all. She didn't need anyone. But every meeting, every late-night email, every quiet moment in her penthouse apartment reminded her of John's words. "You'll never believe that." Then one evening, as she sat alone in her office, Alice's small voice echoed in her memory. "You look like a princess." Tears spilled down her face. She realized she wasn't afraid of John leaving, she was afraid of believing she was worthy of staying. And that was the night she made her choice. 2 weeks later, Isabella's phone rang in the middle of a late-night meeting. When she saw the name flash across the screen, Alice Storm, her heart lurched. "Hello," she answered, her voice trembling. "Miss Bella?" Alice's small voice quivered. "Daddy's sick. He fell down, and I don't know what to do." Isabella's heart stopped. "Where are you, sweetheart?" "Home." "He said not to call 911, but I'm scared." Isabella didn't hesitate. She canceled the meeting, rushed out of the building, and had her driver take her straight to John's apartment. When she arrived, she found John pale and sweating on the couch, clutching his side. "John," she cried, wheeling quickly to his side. "I'm fine," he muttered through gritted teeth. "Just stomach pain." "I didn't want Alice to panic." "You stubborn man," Isabella scolded, tears brimming in her eyes. "You should have called someone." Together, they got him to the hospital. It turned out to be appendicitis, painful but treatable. While doctors operated, Isabella stayed with Alice in the waiting room, holding her close as the little girl cried. When John finally woke after surgery, the first face he saw was Isabella's. She was holding Alice's hand, her other hand resting gently on his. "You scared us half to death," Isabella whispered, her voice breaking. John's eyes softened. "You came." "Of course I came," she said, her tears falling freely. "Where else would I be?" And for the first time, Isabella realized the truth. She wasn't just afraid of John leaving, she was afraid of admitting how much she cared. John's recovery gave them time together, real, vulnerable time. Isabella cooked in his kitchen, or at least tried, laughing when Alice declared her pancakes too crunchy. They watched movies, told stories, and shared quiet moments where words weren't needed. One evening, as they sat on his balcony watching the sunset, John finally asked the question that had lingered between them. "What really happened, Isabella? What made you build those walls?" Her breath caught. For years, she had buried the memory, but now she saw the patience in his eyes, the trust in Alice's smile. "Maybe it was time. 5 years ago," she began softly, "I was driving home from work. It was late, and I was exhausted. A truck ran a red light and hit me. I woke up in the hospital paralyzed from the waist down. My fiancé," her voice cracked. "He left me within a month. Said he couldn't handle it. Friends drifted away. Everyone looked at me differently, like I was fragile, broken. So I built walls. It was easier than letting anyone hurt me again." John reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "You're not broken, Isabella. You're the strongest person I know. But strength doesn't mean carrying everything alone." Tears slid down her cheeks as she whispered, "And what if you leave too?" He looked straight into her eyes. "Then that's my choice. But right now, I'm here. And I want to be here as long as you'll let me." For the first time in years, Isabella didn't pull away. She leaned forward, resting her forehead against his, and let herself believe. Life wasn't suddenly perfect. Isabella still battled insecurity. John still struggled as a single dad. Their worlds were different. Hers filled with corporate boardrooms, his with school. And not everyone approved. At a charity gala a month later, whispers followed Isabella as she entered with John by her side. Some investors muttered that she was lowering her standards. Others questioned her judgment. Isabella felt the old fear rising, but John squeezed her hand. "Let them talk. We know the truth." Then Alice, in her little pink dress, tugged on Isabella's sleeve. "Can I tell everyone you're my princess now?" Isabella's heart melted. She knelt down, tears shining in her eyes. "Yes, sweetheart. You can." And when Alice announced it proudly to the crowd, laughter and applause broke out, silencing the whispers. For once, Isabella didn't feel like the woman in the wheelchair, she felt like a woman loved and accepted. Months later, on a crisp autumn evening, John invited Isabella and Alice to the park where they often walked. The trees glowed gold and crimson, and Alice skipped ahead, scattering leaves like confetti. As the sun dipped low, John stopped, his heart pounding. He turned Isabella's chair to face him, then dropped to one knee. "Isabella Hart," he said, his voice shaking, "you walked into my life when I wasn't even looking. You loved my daughter like your own, and you showed me a strength I can only admire. I don't care about your chair, your fears, or your walls. I care about you. Will you marry me?" Isabella's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Alice, who was bouncing with excitement, then back at John, the man who had seen her not as broken, but whole. "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling with joy. "Yes, I will." Alice squealed, throwing her arms around them both. "We're going to be a family." And for the first time in years, Isabella felt complete. Their wedding was simple, intimate, filled with laughter and love. This time, Isabella wasn't sitting alone in the corner. She was at the center, surrounded by people who saw her for who she truly was. When John danced with her, holding her hands as she moved gracefully in her chair, the entire room went silent, not out of pity, but awe. Isabella had once believed her wheelchair defined her. But now, as she looked into John's eyes and felt Alice's tiny hand slip into hers, she knew the truth. It didn't matter how she moved through life. What mattered was who walked or wheeled beside her. And in that moment, she knew she wasn't just a CEO. She wasn't just a survivor. She was loved. Fully. Completely. And that made all the difference. Love doesn't ask for perfection. It doesn't see limits, it sees hearts. Isabella and John's story wasn't about a wheelchair or single parenthood, it was about two broken souls finding wholeness together. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is let someone in.